Hello, everyone. This is Experience Matters with Eric Newton. I'm Eric Newton, and today I'm lucky enough to have the infamous Mickey Plyler, the famous Mickey Plyler on the show.
Famous is better than infamous.
Well, true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Famous.
The famous Mickey Plyler. I think everybody knows Mickey Plyler. If you're, especially if you're a Clemson fan, local radio personality, and everybody loves hearing Mickey talk sports, and he's on the show from what
6 to 9.
6 to 9 every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
So it's great to have him on today on our podcast, and we're excited to sit down and chat with you.
Talked about it for a while, so I'm glad we got a chance to do it.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. Mickey's a little under the weather. We're gonna have to really sanitize everything after he leaves.
I've been told that I'm not contagious, which is good, but I had pneumonia. Just got diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday, which we're doing this on a Monday, so that's 3-4 days ago. But
it was
Friday. But
so now I'm feeling guilty for.
No, we're good. We're good. So we have a few hundred coughs, but that's not bad. It's a lingering cough. It's not related to pneumonia. But I was talking to your wife about it. She had it, and I have joked, if you get a chance, go get in the bronchitis line a couple times. Get you some strep every once in a while. Skip that pneumonia line. Just find a way to avoid the pneumonia line.
Yeah,
because I don't get sick. I've been a doctor. This is the second time I've ever been to the doctor. And man, I was on my deathbed, and thanks to some antibiotics and some steroids, we're back.
Yeah.
Well,
you look good. You look good.
Look, 12-pound weight loss, 4 days.
Well, that's
not a bad deal.
Best. Well, not the best kind of diet, but it's it's a diet.
Yeah, it is one.
I mean, let's look at the bright side. You lost 12 pounds.
Yeah.
You didn't feel great, but so you're coming out of that. Yeah. Anybody else in your family get sick?
Yeah, man. But not with pneumonia. But so, you know this with your daughters. My 8-month-old did the first day of daycare this year, and my 5-year-old with the 4K. And my wife told me in August that it will be a petri dish, and they're going to be sick. Well, she was 100% right that every week it was something. And so the thought there is that you get them immune system going good, and because you can either do it now or you can do it in kindergarten or first grade. Right. So we're going through it right now, and so my daughter's at the doctor right now, 102.5.
Oh my goodness!
So
wait, how old is Drake now?
Drake's 5.
You've got to be kidding
5
me.
going on like 60.
No way.
Oh yeah, man. He's so stinking smart. Now he's in the WWE, and so we're in the garage yesterday. Right? I took him to Monday Night Raw the other night. He's doing he knows all the everything. So we're in a garage, and he's trying to lift weights. His granddad's a weightlifter, so he's not. Anyway, but his motivation songs are this WWE soundtrack. There's like 40 wrestlers with their intro music, and like the first note, he knows every one of them. So I don't know if you were into it when you were a kid. You're a wrestler,
yeah,
not a wrestler.
That's wrestling.
Yeah. He's all into that, man. And to be honest with you, it's entertaining. Like they do a great job with their app and I've learned a lot from them, the WWE that is. All their music, all their fan participation, and like how all their marketing, their merchandising, and how there's something going on. There's a King of the Ring, or there's a WrestleMania, or there's a SummerSlam, and there's always something. And they're on TV on Monday nights and Friday nights, and they got other things like the week. And man, you talk about marketing. They are geniuses.
Who's his favorite wrestler?
He loves Randy Orton. Right.
See, I don't know.
I didn't know any of this stuff. Now I know all their songs and all their sayings and all that.
Isn't it funny what kids latch on to?
Yeah.
There's always going to be something that they latch on to. You don't know what it is.
Did you do it did you follow as a kid, like with Ric Flair or with Stone Cold or anything?
A little bit. I wasn't like super into the.
Did you have friends?
Yeah, I had friends that loved it. I mean, that were religious about it.
So my wife she's an elementary school assistant principal, and she says, you won't believe, like at our school, all the boys, that's their T-shirts, and that's their backpacks, or that's their whatever. That's all they talk about.
Really?
And they've done a really good job with the kids part of it and getting them in there. And my kid is very aware that it's not real. He's aware of everything, but you know what it is, Eric? It's Clemson football. everyone knows the songs. Everyone knows the chants. Everyone knows the players and the coaches and the announcers and and everybody knows it's a rhythm. And so the fourth quarter video, like they've got videos of all their stuff. It's a little bit like the PGA Tour, and it's the traveling circus, but it's more like a Southern football game, and it is this highly religious people who are fanatical. We went to Greenville. Here's something they do smart. The ring seats are $200 and $300 and $400 and $500. Sit down there.
Wow.
We buy the seats in the upper deck. How much do you think they are?
No idea.
$20. And the reason they're $20, and my wife even says this: if it gets close to the event and it's not sold out, they give tickets because it's a TV event. And when they turn the lights on, the Coliseums are packed. And so when you're flipping around the team and you say, "Man, this must be a big deal. Like this place is packed."
Yeah, that is smart.
Yeah, do a great job of creating an atmosphere. This is big.
Yeah, I bet I couldn't tell you one wrestler's name.
Oh man, come to my house, and 5 minutes later you will be. My son walks around the house right now with my daughter's baby dolls or teddy bears or little lions, and he'll do a stone cold stunner. Or he'll do a figure four, suplex and everything. Yeah. I mean, nothing's safe in my house. We're going to wrestle all day.
Do you wrestle with him?
Yeah. And I've got to be stone cold. He has to be Randy Orton. And then we've got to talk we do our talking.
What's the
atomic elbow drop? You got all that. But he has his own little moves too.
But you have the chair, breaking the chair over.
We don't do chairs and tables yet. Thank goodness. But no, he's one of those kids that's like, for 15 minutes, we're going to hit baseballs in the front yard. And then for 15 minutes, we're going to go hit golf balls. And then we're going to go on. He loves hiking. So we go to Table Rock. Sorry. We got all these places. And we'll do that for a longer amount of time. But for 15 minutes, we might play with his little wrestling stuff. And then 15 minutes, it's like every 15 minutes, music's big to him. So it's like, you probably had with your girls. It's like they now that you're focused in. But
what kind of music does he like?
Every kind of music. So he will listen to bluegrass and country, like Morgan Wallen. He knows every word to every song, even though someone's bad. But the Beatles, and he likes rap now. But I'm trying to find a clean rap song for him. So we'll go back to Will Smith. He knows Get Jiggy With It now. We sing that around now. So every kind of music, and he's taking music camps and all that kind of stuff. We're trying to. I know you did this to your girls too, like. Give them everything, exposure to everything, and don't force anything on them, and then they'll navigate.
See what they like, what he likes. Yeah.
So we've not been ultra successful. But that's one thing. Just give him exposure, and he'll figure it out. Soccer's not been great. We're going to do T-ball maybe next year, but I think music's going to be there to stay as one of the staples. Staples, I should say, of what he's going to do.
Yeah. It's really cool to see what they latch on to. Like with my oldest daughter Ella, she got into acting. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so she acted for a long time, and then she got a lead role at the Peace Center, and then she just gave it up. But
well, she climbed a mountain.
She was really good at it.
Yeah.
She's got an incredible voice.
She got that from you.
I don't know. Maybe.
I know.
But and then every one of them's different. You just never know what
it's crazy, isn't it? Like they came from you, and there are certain things that are similar. But there's so many differences in them, right?
Oh yeah. So many different. You and you can't discipline them the same.
Yeah.
They're all because of their different personalities. Some are more sensitive than others. I mean, of course, I had all girls, but they all respond to discipline different.
Can I give you a quick discipline story? Drake's 5, man, and he's a good kid. Right now, he's fighting for attention from his sister. So he acts up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You had that with your girls. So he's acting up, and he says something to his mom. I've jumped him maybe twice before the other night. I mean, he's like a little man, though. Like he's, because of COVID probably, and not hanging out with a lot of other kids, he hangs out with adults all the time. I take him to lunch every day. You see him, when you have a little conversation, he's like a little man. Right?
Yeah, he is.
So he's back there with his mom, and they're getting ready for bed. And his mom said he can't do something he wants to do. And he said something he shouldn't have said to her. And I heard it. and I went back and I lost it, man. I shouldn't have, but I lost it. And I'm about 3 minutes into this pretty good ripping. And 3 or 4 minutes into it, he looks at me and he goes, "You know what?" What's that? He goes, "I about had enough of this." I look over, his mom is busting up like she's like this. I'm trying not to laugh. And I said, "Well, I have it." And then I said, "Watch it, little man." We don't cuss in our house. Right? "Watch it, little man, or I'll send your little ass to bed by yourself." Because he sleeps with his mom. You know, so. And the next day they're driving to school. And he's not scared of that, by the way. He's scared. He doesn't want time out. But me yelling at him, nah, obviously it's nothing. They're going to school the next day, and my wife says, "Drake, what do you think about your dad jumping you last night?" He goes, "I thought it was pretty cool." I said, "We need some excitement around here." He said, "Plus I got him to say ass." So like for him, he wasn't scared of that.
Yeah.
You know?
He's not scared of you.
No, I don't know how in the world we're going to get that. Because I do think you need to have a little tiny bit of fear.
Yeah.
But we don't have it now, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, "I'm just about tired of this."
Just about tired of this.
Yeah.
It reminds me, have you seen that there's a video of this little kid? He's probably about Drake's age. And he's like, "Dad, I'm having a bad day. Don't mess with me right now." And he's like walking away. He's like, "Just don't mess with me. I'm having a really bad day." And the dad says, "So you're having a bad day?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm having a bad day." He said, "Okay, well, you're not going to wrestle later?" And he goes, "Well, maybe."
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We love my kid likes watching other kids' videos. So the listen, Linda, listen stuff or some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh
man. Linda.
Yeah. He's man, hey, that's up his alley. Yeah. But he's so, like all the kids are technology, like he can run stuff. My laptop would do something. I went, "Drake, what do I do here?" And he'll go fix it for me and all that. 5 years old.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So what grade will he be in?
He'll be in kindergarten next year.
Yeah,
he just did K4.
Yeah.
He's going to kindergarten next year.
Is he going to go to 6 Mile?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. He likes being close to her. They're inseparable. She's an unbelievable mom, and they're inseparable. So it certainly helps to have that. And the other thing is, like, after school, he hangs around, like he runs the school. Like all the teachers, all the support staff, everybody's like, "Hey, Drake," come. He goes in their offices and does all that stuff. But it's a good environment for that, to him to grow up around all that and the good teachers and all.
Is that going to be an adjustment? Because I know y'all get to hang out a lot after you work.
So, it's what my day looks like is I get up at 5, go to work. I get home about 10:15. I pick my daughter up. We play, I change diapers and play and feed and do all that. My wife gets home about 4:30, and at 4:30 it's like, here we switch. Because Drake, man, we got to go. We're going on a hike, Dad. Let's go out in the backyard. Let's ride bikes. Let's go, whatever, baseballs. Let's go to the golf course, whatever. So we switch it up. We reintroduce ourselves back to the girls. This is really cool. Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning, we have bro time. He wakes me up at 6:15. We watch Outdoor Boys YouTube channel of their hiking or their fishing or whatever. And then about 8 o'clock, we make pancakes. And then we have bro time. And then it's time for Mom to come in and get some mom time. But they're much closer than we are. But it's pretty cool. Get some bro time in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you take him with you to the golf course.
Mm-hmm. I didn't force it on him. A couple of times I'd ask him to go, and he went, and he didn't like it. And about the past 2 months, on 4 or 5 occasions, he wants to go now. He asked me to go now, which is a goal, to get him to go have fun. And he's pretty doggone good at it, for that. But now he wants to go.
Well, he's got a good teacher.
Yeah, but you got to be careful. All my thing now is like, just hit it hard and let's have fun. Because my only goal is to get him to go back, if he wants to.
So how's your game been?
What's funny is I was decent. I had him. My handicap went from a +2 to a 2. He went to school. I got it back down to +2. I had my daughter. Now I'm a 3. So it's a 4 or 5 deal there, and then she'll go to school and hopefully one day. But that's different.
So
now.
What do you think suffered the most with your game? Short game or?
Oh no, just
because you go out and chip and putt.
I used to work at it.
Yeah.
When I had time, I was single and what else? My buddy said that almost quit one time. He goes, "What the heck would you do?" I was like, "I don't know, man. Like, what would he do?" He quit one time, and he said, "I'm going to go buy a bass boat." And he goes, "I'm going to sit it in the driveway, and every time I get the urge to go fishing, I'm just going to go sit in the boat till the urge goes away, and then come back inside." So, like what would you do if you didn't have? Like, I'm getting off at work at 10 or 10:30 in the morning, 11. I got every afternoon. If you didn't have 4 girls, if you didn't have a wife, you didn't have a big business, what would you do? You played golf at one point in time. You fished, you boated. You had the hobbies.
Yeah.
You don't have those anymore, right?
No, not now.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually I want to get back into golf.
Right now, you're going to soccer, basketball. You're off.
Dance.
Yeah.
Soccer, basketball. I'm coaching.
Yeah.
AAU basketball
on top of all this.
Yeah. So I don't really have time. Maybe I'm starting to catch your little
now I feel bad.
No. I just don't have the time. Like, I love playing. I just don't have the time. I love hitting balls. I love chipping and putting, and I mean, I can do that for hours. And prior to kids, I did do that.
But there's a time for that. You'll have time later in life for that. You're young. Hopefully we're all gonna.
Yeah. I mean, I'll eventually get back into it. So to answer your question about that, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I'd probably go on hunting trips and do.
I'm going to Northern Ireland
stuff
this year to play golf.
Are you really?
Yeah, 11 days. You're playing unbelievable golf courses, but
you're not going with that Clemson group, are you?
Yeah, no, we're going with some guys we know, 8 of us total. Some of the guys you might know, but
I want to do that. I want to do that one day.
But y'all travel a lot, which is great. But you take your girls.
Yeah, we take the girls.
Yeah,
they didn't take up golf, but that's okay.
Well, no, but not just that. Like for your girls to experience Europe.
Yeah, it's fun. I love traveling. That's my my hobby.
But you wouldn't do it alone.
No,
or you wouldn't do it. I mean, we went out.
It's more fun with the whole family. Yeah.
Yeah, and more than those knucklehead groups we used to go play golf with.
Yeah.
And doing dumb knucklehead stuff.
Right.
Like, this is better. You to experience your girls and your wife on a
and
cultural type deal.
Get to experience all that together.
Yeah.
A lot of it's first time for them. Sometimes first time for us.
And you think about like your grandkids and all that. Like their moms will have these experiences that they know, and they'll take them.
Right.
You started that lineage.
Yeah, you learn so much. Just learn a lot about other cultures, and I mean, a lot of the we go to a lot of historical places, and it's just really fun for them to experience that.
But tough with 6.
It is tough with 6. It's hard to travel with 6 because you have to have.
Let me guess. Food is probably a big deal.
Oh, food. Yeah, where we eat's always a battle.
Yeah.
We always get 2 rooms unless the hotel or the place we're staying doesn't have 2, double beds in the rooms. Then we have to get 3 rooms. And so that can get pretty pricey. But like, we always try to we'll have a room to ourselves, and we'll put the girls in a room with 2 double beds, and then they're packed in there like
but they get along good though.
Yeah, they do.
But that's probably not always the case, but there's enough. They're at the age now.
They do. My oldest and youngest, they usually gravitate towards each other, and then the 2 middle ones, they hang out together.
Yeah.
And then Ella, the oldest, the one that's about to be a sophomore at Clemson, she's kind of like the mother hen.
Yeah.
So she kind of watches over everybody and tries to keep everybody in check.
It's nice to have that.
Yeah, it is.
There's a say. I listen to Jordan Peterson's podcast all the time, and he always says, if you have 2, you might as well have 3, 4, and 5, because after 2, the oldest ones help raise the youngest ones.
Yeah.
So it's not like, there's a big jump from 0 to 1, and there's a big jump from 1 to 2, but the jump from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 is not the incrementally, not the jump.
Yeah. It's kind of cool to see. She just naturally did. we didn't always ask her. She just did, you know? So she was like, kind of like, the big sister. She's, she is helping. She did help raise the younger ones. So she's a role model too. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But she's already been through what like their ages are going through stuff, right? Like there's for girls nowadays. I couldn't imagine like the social pressures and the social medias and the popularities of the dresses, like that pressure. But she's been through that,
Right.
and so she's seen all that.
Right.
My little nieces, they're sophomores now. They'll be juniors at Clemson, and something hit me like I've never noticed before. And I knew there's pressure on girls, teenage girls, and all. But at one of the national championship games, they get their picture made by the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, we're out in California for out there, and or it might have been one of my nieces were playing at Pebble Beach in the USAM or whatever, and they get their picture made. And it's a beautiful picture, but they had to post it at prime posting time for their Instagram account or whatever. Because if you didn't, then you wouldn't get as many likes this way.
Right.
But the comments below, now remind you, it's a beautiful picture. They're beautiful girls anyway. But they got the Golden Gate Bridge as the backdrop.
I love your outfit.
Your earrings look great. When did you get your hair done? Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, they missed the Golden Gate Bridge. They missed it.
Yeah.
But my other niece says, well, then they say that because they like us when they put their picture. You got to talk about their hair and their makeup and their dress or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
Man, how about that pressure?
But there'll be hundreds of those comments.
Yes.
And every one of their posts gets, hundreds of likes.
But none.
And some of them go viral.
The bridge.
Yeah, but not about the bridge.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how that works.
I don't even know. Gap. I don't know. Made 1 million of those dresses.
Yeah.
And they got one Golden Gate Bridge. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And by the way, you wear that dress 50 times. You get to see this thing one time in your life.
Yeah. Well, it always cracks me up too, is like how much, this is everybody. It's not just girls. I find myself wanting to do it too, but we've all gotten to a point where we'll be at an event and we're videoing the event while it's going on. So we can go back and look at it, but we're not absorbing. So you're looking at your screen, which is no different than looking at the TV, really. You're looking at the screen the whole time you're at the live event. And I've made a point. I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care if I don't get the the live action feed and I can't go back and look at it. I want to be able to visualize it in my brain.
I heard this great Chris Rock bit the other day, and he says the number one addiction in our country is not drugs or alcohol or food, it's attention. And he said there's four ways to do it. You can he said you can show your butt, and you see that at Walmart where the lady slams or whatever, or on the airplane, like you can do that. You can be infamous, you can go shoot up a school, whatever, you want to do that. You can be exceptional and be elite, but that's hard. Like you can get attention.
Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's hard to do. But the final way and the easiest way, and what people do more than anything else, is you just become a victim. But it's all about. And he said that
that drives me crazy.
He said the world used to be when the Beatles say, "All we need is love." He goes, now all I want is likes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be loved. I need likes. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant though.
No, you're exactly right. Everybody wants to play victim.
Oh,
man. I heard something the other day. It was, actually I was reading, I read a book, and the guy said, was talking about, like, a lot of times people say this happened to me, something bad happened, whatever. And they say this happened to me, and that's their crutch. And that's why things aren't going the way they want them to go. And the guy said, no, actually that happened for you.
Mm.
If you learn from your mistakes, you learn from those bad things that happen to you, you'll become in the long run, you'll become a better person. So it happened for you, not to you.
I heard a great podcast, sorry, the other day, and talked about self-pity. And it talked about the victimhood mentality of, well, I didn't deserve this. And the answer was, let me remind you that a couple thousand years ago, that the only unflawed human being to ever walk the face of the earth went through the stuff that no human being ever has had to go through by no fault of his own. And you're going to say that you don't deserve this? Like, and obviously why I did it and all that, but like, wait a minute, man, whoa, you got a little perspective on
Right.
what you deserve, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand when somebody says
Self-pity.
yeah, I don't like the self pity stuff.
Mm-mm.
So what else is new? Everything going well with the radio
Man, we're blessed.
station and everything? Y'all. I mean, I know it's been a while, but
Come by us, goods. You'll like it over there.
you've
We, you knew our old building wasn't
Yeah.
great. Our new building is, I don't know, 20,000 square feet. It's awesome. It's the best radio studio I've ever been in. Our sales, I had my year-end deal the other day. I think they're going to keep me. I'm 26 years now, so I joke with that about that. And my GM was like, you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, I got to do it till I'm 71 now. I got an 8-month-old, but things are going great. The station's awesome. Our sales are records. Our interest is higher. We got more listeners than ever before. Technology is a big part of that on apps and going back and listening to podcasts and how you track all that. And we do all kinds of innovative marketing stuff now, which is awesome. And on top of that, I mean, Clemson, it's a Clemson driven stuff. The sports world is still, going to be there, but Clemson driven helps with what's going on and what is going to happen here in the next 5 years. If you think it's big now in your business, I mean, you think about all the things you do on campus. I mean, all the student housing stuff, all the new home stuff, all the commercial, all the rentals. Think about on those weekends in which University of Texas could come here to play football, or Alabama, or Oregon, or Penn State, or Ohio State, or Michigan, or Oklahoma. Like we're about to. And I mean,
yeah, it's crazy thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're going to visit with the mayor. If man, I'm excited. If I'm one of those folks, I'm a little bit terrified. Like this place is going to be. It already has been at times the epicenter. But you grew up here, so man, this is from where we are to where we are now. But if this happens the way most think it's going to happen, and almost assuredly it's going to happen, that's the biggest thing happened in our lifetime to this community. Like Florida State being good is one thing. But in Florida State coming here, whatever through the years, that was a big deal. Not Texas, not Ohio State, not Michigan, not Alabama. That's a whole different. We're talking about exploding, and I don't know how you handle all that.
Yeah, I know
it's a lot of negatives to it too. But man, that's big now. It's going to be big. So it'll be the best thing to happen to us,
right?
Best thing to happen to you eventually.
Well, I was just gonna ask you, like, I mean, I'm sure y'all track. Do you know how many listeners do you have? You have on a daily basis or weekly basis?
There's two ways. There's two listeners. There's one that is the radio listener over the airwaves, the FM signal, and you can't track those. There are people that track it. We do very well in the tracking system, and especially one of them. And I just learned this the other day. We're doing great with young people for some reason. It's the biggest growth. We used to really sell 25 to 54-year-old males. We do a lot better with females than what the normal radio station, sports station would do. We can't sell on that because we have a lot of great listeners there, but that's not a big number for us. Biggest number is 25 to 54, still male, but the younger crowd, we're doing much better with. They do 25 to 35. We're doing much better with them than ever before. But what we can track is on our app and on our website. And I am shocked, but the millions of minutes that are listened. And on that, because you got to register, I think, that they can tell you, who you are, where you're listening from, how long you're listening, what times you turn it on, what times you turn it off. And so we track that. We've got these data people that, these internet geeky people don't know what they're doing, but they know all that stuff. And it's more and more and more every single month, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and you start adding these teams coming into town. I mean, I jokingly, when people, it's amazing to me when I go out and I introduce myself to people and I say Eric Newton, and they're like, ericnewton.com. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, and sometimes they'll say, like, are you that insurance guy? Or, or are you the attorney or whatever? I'm like, no, I'm a real estate guy, but it's amazing. I'm like, it's amazing how many people listen to your show. And it's that one slot that
Uh-huh.
I advertise, and I've been doing it for what? I don't know. It's been
probably almost 20 years.
almost 20 years. And and do you remember
Remember it well.
the how that all started?
Remember it well.
We were joking, we were sitting in the studio, we were going to do you're like, you got 30 seconds to get your point across on whatever ad that I was going to do. And I was like, I sat there for a minute and I was, jotting down some notes, and I jokingly said, what if we just said Eric Newton, Eric Newton, Eric Newton, EricNewton.com? And you looked at me and you're like, that's a good idea. And it was a complete joke. But then the next day you did it, and you've done it on the radio ever since. And I have so many funny stories about that.
So oftentimes people come to you and say, Eric Newton, and they'll say, Eric Newton, Eric Newton, EricNewton.com. They'll do 3.
Yeah. Like I can't tell you how many times, and sometimes it's embarrassing,
Yeah.
Like I'll go somewhere and they'll just yell out, Eric Newton, Eric Newton, EricNewton.com, and I'm like, oh gosh, and it's like, who is that vain guy, because you remember the reason we did it is because I was going through a transformational period.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the recession and all that, right before.
Oh man, you stuck with me, and like we worked together on some stuff, and so it's like, whoa, like because 2008, like it wasn't good for either one of us.
Right.
But we did all that. I remember, but the reason that came up was because you play guitar and you sing, and you were in this band at the time, and I said, why don't you just sing, give me your guitar, and just sing EricNewton.com for 30 seconds. Just over and over and over.
Yeah.
But what's interesting part of that is that because the strategies worked out, like that initial conversation that's worked out. And so someone who might think you might be in insurance, doesn't matter. But like they would either go to that eventually, and yours is not an impulse buy. I mean, not oftentimes. For some folks it might be. But the other part is that they know that, and then years later they still know that. And most of it probably know it's real estate. Probably not all forms of your real estate, right?
Right.
But so you've got to me, you've got a very interesting marketing dilemma, but also opportunity, because you're so widespread, and there's that niche market that certain people would have, but yet you got a bunch of those. So you got a challenge through all that. But I think you've done a great job with that.
Well, yeah, when had to basically regroup during the recession, I had to figure out what I wanted to hang my hat on, and I just decided to hang my hat on Clemson, the Clemson market and the surrounding lakes. And we focused on, I was doing a lot of single family residential development, land development, and then that business tanked because of the recession. Couldn't give lots away, which is crazy because it's completely different now. It's the opposite. You can't find a lot hardly, but and so I focused on the property management, growing that, and then the sales business. And it was more of a branding. And I was like, most people want to deal with a person. They don't care so much about a company. They care about the person. And so that was the idea behind the Eric Newton brand. They may not know me, but they may know the brand.
That you're local, help that you're degreed in it, and like it, and the experience part of it. People knew you a little bit through it all too. But you were very you had an awful lot of persistence. You were going to survive. I remember that conversation, like one of the conversations we had, you might not remember this is probably like 2009 or 10. It's like we're coming out of it, like in for every one of your projects, not every one, but most of your projects, the conversation would be, man, failure is not an option on this one.
Right.
Like if this goes down, man, we're cooked, but we're not going to get cooked. Like we're going to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just kind of like, things kind of came full circle. There were points in time, during that time frame where I thought, man, this, do I even want to continue doing this? It's just
because you like you're rolling the dice,
mm-hmm.
and it could come up snake eyes.
Right.
But the other part I think I remember well, and I always thought admired, is that there's a point in time you could walk away at any point in time, you'd be comfortable and everything would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like you've got a sense now of you're a provider for a lot of people. Like when you go to bed at night and we wake up in the morning, you're thinking about, I got families I got to do well for today. Yours most importantly, but a lot of people,
right,
depending on that.
Yeah, I feel that sense of obligation. The Lord put me here in this position for a reason.
Community wise, but more, I mean, not more importantly, but also in that company.
Right.
Their lives, man. Those are families, are moms and dads and kids, and they got doctor bills and mortgages, and it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Well, how cool is it that, I wanted to hang my hat on Clemson, Clemson market, surrounding lakes, and I'm able to raise my family here and do business here in the town that I love.
Yeah.
And, I love everything about it.
Yeah.
I love the lakes. I love all the sporting events. I love that we're so close to everything.
One of the amazing things about your company is that in your industry, I'm only guessing, but in your industry, like, because you're a local guy, like I've had friends of mine that rented a student housing from a national company, and it was a disaster. Like their tubs didn't come in. It's supposed to be furnished. There's no furniture. Like they walk in, where is it? I don't know. It'll be in a couple of weeks, kind of thing. But like when it happens to you, man, that's Eric Newton, and that's a Clemson guy. And so there's a Clemson mom and dad that want to talk to you about that. And I'm sure every day of your life there's fires. But reputation wise, and I mean there's a micro and a macro part of it, but like you got to survive a lot of that. But really for the most part, reputation wise, I think people trust. They know it might not be perfect. You're going to run some risk in there, but I think you did a great job of that.
Some people don't like me because of what I do, but
like who doesn't like? Not specifically, but what groups of people wouldn't like you?
Well, I mean, you talk about all this growth that we've had, and all the success we've had in the sports programs, and all the attention that has been put on the university, and I mean, it's when Ella applied to Clemson, I think there were like over 60,000 applications.
Yeah.
So the popularity.
That wasn't your fault.
That wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, these are. I mean, the upstate in general is growing. I mean, look at Greenville. Greenville's exploded, and so we're midway between Atlanta and Charlotte. So I mean, it's just it's generally it's a great place. These are things that are out of my control. But how cool is it that to your point, like that a local person is working here, is hanging his hat on this area. Like
I don't think people realize too. Like that's nothing that hadn't happened. Like there's national, huge corporations that are part of other places.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little cliche, but like development with a conscience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a conscience. I mean, I want what's best for the school too. There are things that are out of our control, but would you rather it be somebody from California doing it, or would you rather it be somebody?
You're always going to agree on that, and that's fine to disagree on that. But with that said, you can always. Because I mean, there's lines that move, but you grew up here and I grew up here. I mean, I know this place. So, man, when I was a kid, you wanted to eat in Clemson, you go to RJ's to get your hot dog. Chanello's had some pizza and some subs over there.
Max.
You always had Max.
Yeah.
And downtown Clemson, you had a couple of T-shirt shops and then a bunch of bars. And and then you look at some that was dilapidated areas, right? You talk about how beautiful it was, and there's parts of it, but man, there was some dilapidated stuff down there that looked awful, but you didn't choose to see that. You wanted, you choose your arguments to all that,
right?
It was and there's challenges. I'm sure not everyone's going to be happy about it, but
yeah, I mean, the thing that I try to remind people, I mean, the things that I love about this town. Or what everybody should love about this. It should be the reason why people move here. They move here because of the school. If the school weren't here, if Clemson University weren't here, the town wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
None of us, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
We are here for the students. Everything we do in this community is for the students. And the idea that I hate traffic, so I hate all these students being here, hate all these young people, the noises or whatever they might do, whatever. Well, you got to back up and remind yourself, they're the only reason that we have jobs. They're the only reason that we're here.
Right.
It's still a lake in a mountain. We'd find it, but no, the catalyst is still the student.
Well, and it's the same people that say they don't want our football program to suck or any of our sports program. It's like, look, if you want to be,
but they also want to be able to pay $100 the uptake and pay $20 a ticket and go sit in the 50-yard line too. Like there's prices to all of that.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm going to be priced out of it one day. Good. And that's fine. I'd rather be that. Look, talk about Texas coming in here or Ohio State, if it's SEC or Big Ten, I got to tell you, man, that's exciting. You ain't going to like the ticket situation.
Right.
I mean,
well, it's already gotten pretty crazy.
Okay.
But
it's
going to get.
It's going to burst. and you're gonna go, man, this stinks. I can't take my whole family to this. This is gonna be bad. A lot of people. But what's the alternative? Go play Wake Forest again and go back to being 7-5 or 5-6 or something? I don't want that. I'd rather sit at home watching TV, against Texas.
Yeah. Well, it's all relative too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and COVID taught us that. I mean, I didn't go to one. I grew up going to all the games from like time I was. I don't remember up until COVID the last time I missed a home game. And
I missed one. I took the SAT from the time I was 4 until this year my daughter was born. I missed 2 home games. And so I went 51 years and missed 1 home game, take the SAT. I don't know why they take the SAT in the spring or something. Like, I just messed that one up.
It's like weddings. Why do you have a wedding on a football weekend?
Yeah, but
who does that?
But Eric, they still had the game.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought, man, if I'm not there, they're probably not going to start. Probably only keep score. Well, guess what? They still played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not going to lie. We had just built our house and had a man cave, and watching those football games.
Yeah.
From
easy.
The comfort of your
bathroom,
couch.
Drinks,
I mean, it was pretty nice. Now that there's no substitution for being there in person.
Sure.
Before we talk about all the SEC and potential Big 12 stuff or Big 10 stuff, I do want to tell you a funny story about the EricNewton.com thing before we move on. But so I tell this story to people when they ask me, it's like, what started that whole thing? And I tell them a story about us sitting in the studio and all that stuff. And then, well, this was probably a year or 2, maybe 3 into you doing that. And I mean, I love Clemson basketball. I mean, I used to go to all the games, all the home games, the basketball games too. And I loved Coach Purnell and Oliver Purnell. We had Rick Barnes, and then we had Chiat, and then Purnell came in, and he had that, that awesome offense.
Awesome.
It was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I was really upset when he left. But anyway, so he was kind of and I'm not a starstruck kind of person, I'm not one to just go crazy over when I see famous people. And with him, he's a famous local guy, and so Jessica and I we went down to Charleston one weekend, and he had a house down there. We went down to Charleston for a long weekend, or it was like Friday night. We got down there late, had a late dinner, and I don't even remember where we went. But sat down, we were waiting on our food and having a few drinks or whatever, and I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And so I got up to go to the bathroom, and in the doorway in the lobby was Oliver Purnell and his wife. And I'm like, holy
Vicky.
cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it?
Vicky.
Yeah. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I didn't see him much around town. I'm down in Charleston, and so I went to the bathroom, and I was like, okay, if he's still standing there, I'm going to say something to him. So I'm going to hurry up, and I wash my hands, and I go back out, and sure enough, he was still standing there. First of all, I was like, why is Oliver Purnell still standing there waiting to be seated, know? But, so I was like, okay, here's my chance. So I went up to him. I'm like, hey, Coach, Eric Newton, I go to all the games. I did all the fan geek stuff, fanboyed it up. And I was like, it's so great to meet you. I love your style of basketball, blah, 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 And then he looked at me like kind of annoyed, it was like, like, I was like, oh God, he just came down here to have dinner. He's getting away. He didn't want to, and he looked at me and he said, did you say Eric Newton? And I said, yes, sir. He said, you mean like Eric Newton? Isn't
that great? Isn't that great?
He's like, that is the most annoying commercial on the radio
Good
station.
For him.
But it must work because I know here. So then, and I was like, holy cow. I was like, Mickey would love to hear that, I didn't say that, but I was thinking in my head, Mickey would love to hear that, the head basketball coach at Clemson knows one of his ads,
A couple of things there, like coaches always say, we don't read their newspapers. We don't listen to radio. Every one of them do. Every one of them do.
Yeah.
I've had so many run-ins with coaches, and one of my favorite ones was Reggie Heron, who was a dear friend, defensive coordinator. You remember Reggie well.
Mhm.
Reggie was Sonny Corleone. He would shoot first, ask questions second all the time. And there's one time where, in this small town, like all the wives listen and all the kids listen and all, and so we're at this part of the season and things didn't go great about a loss or whatever. And he called me up on the phone and he ripped me up and down. And he said, I heard you said this about our blitz percentage. We need to do this. And he said, I will tell you this. That's not the percentage we had. We didn't blitz but this many amount of times. And he cussed me up and down. And I said, Coach, that was a caller that said that. I took up for you, gave you those numbers. He goes, you did? I went, yeah. He goes, hey, man, how's your family? Everybody good? Like, so, it's like, that's how coaches are. Like, they're going to defend themselves and passionate about it, but they all listen.
So I've always wondered, do you ever hold back because you're afraid they might be listening, or do you just say it like it is?
No, I would never. Now I'll say this, what I've learned to be is not to be too close to any of them anymore. Like there's a point in time where I was just closer to your coaches, and it's hard to criticize a friend. I still consider some of them friends, but it is harder to criticize that. But I will tell you that more than anything else, what would be held back is because of families. So there was a time where there were the coordinators at Clemson got fired, and I got the phone call from one of the secretaries that, hey, they just went in and they're getting fired right now. And like, I could have broken that story on the radio that morning. That would have been a big feather in my cap. Like, this guy got fired. With that said, I didn't go to the story because I didn't want the wife and the kids to hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
You got to remember, man, like those are dads and moms, and those are husbands and fathers. Yeah. And so that's where you got to be a little bit aware of. So I would say, criticizing fairly and praising fairly is probably a way to go about it, but understanding you're criticizing the position and not the person.
Right.
But these are all good people. My aunt the other day, she's a big Gamecock fan. She's like, Dabo texted her, called or something. I said something about it. And she said, I can't stand him. I went, to be honest with you, you'd love him. She said, no, not Dumbo. But it was like, you don't understand. Like, he's Shane Beamer. Like, I would like Shane Beamer. Like, these are good people. They're doing good things. They're helping young people out. And because they wear a color, like, they're not bad. We're so ingrained in that.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And we've, living here and then raising kids here, a lot of our, my kids are friends with a lot of the kids of the coaches and stuff. And
you personally, and people don't realize, like, there's a couple of coaches that you told me stories about. They're off the air, like several things you told me. And like, I would never mention that on the air. So you got to protect those relationships. I want them to feel comfortable because they're friends. I mean, and we love them. And, you've got the kids of those kids that they're playing sports with and everything else. And from a client standpoint, because in real estate, you got a relationship with someone, you're going to buy a house. The wife's coming to town. Who knows if guys going to be fired or not fired or hired. So like a lot of stuff you had all that. So,
right.
You had to protect clients, but then the friendship too. Your kids, man, they don't need to be subjected to all that.
Right. And it's the friendships first, right? I mean, and I like, so it's really sad. Like Grayson's best friend is Addie Venables. And, when they moved, that was really sad. She cried. They both cried. I mean, and you see that and you're like, people aren't seeing that. They're not seeing that side of things, and I mean, they're still best friends. They talk every day just about, and so like, to me, I mean, yes, there's the job side of it. And sometimes, I mean, people criticize me and,
but they don't
what
know
I
you
do, and they don't know me and they don't know.
You do it too, though. I mean, I criticize people I don't know from afar.
Yeah.
And hopefully not as locally that way, but people make decisions and they're
right. But that's part of your job. Sure. I mean, to do that, and you don't do it. It's not personal for you. I don't, think so. It's just, you're just stating facts.
Those coaches' kids grow up like having to know mom or dad are in this different world, and they get. I mean, there's tons of advantages to it too. You take some of the good with the bad, but with it, they grow up with a little thicker skin, knowing that somebody said something about dad, or
Yeah, there's definitely a shield that gets put
Yeah.
up, and it's, you know, it, they don't always let people in, and
Mhm.
I get it completely because you don't know what
Tommy Bowden was
somebody.
the best at that. Like
y-
the best and the worst. Tommy Bowden grew up, and remember this: his dad was criticized at West Virginia, and he played there for him, and he saw that, and like his dad got fired there basically, and or he left, but like they want to hang him in effigy there, so he had this calloused guard up at all times. He never
Yeah.
got close to Tommy Bowden. I got a little bit closer to him at times, but he'd always keep you a little bit at bay. And what's interesting about Dabo is that Brent Venables, matter of fact, said it best. Dabo never takes his guard down because he never puts it up, and that's what people who don't know him well enough know that. Like he has to do some of it now more than ever, but still, man, that's pretty hard to be that authentic and to be that real in front of everybody all the time. But the way to protect that is just he's comfortable being him, which helps a lot.
Right.
Too,
Yeah.
Whereas
But
Bowden maybe might not have been, but yeah, you see it like they're going to protect themselves and their reputation and their family, and they should.
they should. Yeah.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what someone's intentions are.
No.
You never know, and so you got to protect your family first.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of the day, they're all human beings, just like us. They're just like us. They just get a lot of attention and a lot of scrutiny, But I always was curious to know how you like, because you got a lot of friends and a lot of friendships in that world, and like how you kind of navigate around that, how you manage.
I would tell you this, that again, when I was a younger man, like I had much more personal relationships. The business has changed too because they control their own message now. So there's not, you don't meet with the coaches anymore. You don't get to talk to them on the record anymore. Like they'll call you or text you, you get little encouragement type stuff or family type stuff, things like that. But like you don't get that like you used to get it. But that's good in a way because you can separate that. I mean, when Rick Stockstill was here, you've had a couple of coaches that you're dear friends with, best friends in the world with, kind of thing, and that's hard. Whereas it's a little easier if you just keep it a little bit more at bay, and they're going to criticize you too. There was one of my favorite stories was there was a defensive coordinator here who let it be known to staff he can't stand me, can't believe I said this, blah 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 blah. And I'm at one of these charity golf tournaments and he's there, and I see him across the parking lot, and I said, "Well, we'll go put a little end to this thing right now." So I walked up to him and walked beeline right to him. And I said, "We're going to have this thing out." And he looked at me, he goes, "Hey, I have a minute to call you." I went, "Yeah, I heard you had." He goes, "Heard you had some back issues. I had some back issues too. What do you think I need to see this?" I was like, "That's what you had issues with me about?" He goes, "Yeah." All right. And I was younger and more brash then, but for the most part, they understand. I got a job to do. They got a job to do. And,
yeah. Well, it's just like with me. I mean, it's not near on that level, but some of the projects that I do are, get a lot of attention, and I'll see, social media posts or like that Eric Newton's ruining our town. It's like, and I'm sure my kids hear things, from time to time, and it's just like, and I've had people come up to me and say things is like, "All right, when are you going to stop doing what you're doing?" And I'll just say, "Well, what do you mean?" And they say, like, "When are you going to stop ruining our town? When are you going to stop like building stuff?" And first of all, I'm taken aback. And I could be sitting in a restaurant and somebody said it to me. It's like, I was like, "Well, I'll I do this. I do my job. I do it with a conscience. I grew up here. I've lived here my whole life, and." You'd rather me do these projects than somebody from out of town. I spend my money here. I live and work here. I've got a lot of employees that are depending on me for their livelihoods. And, every chance I get, I'm trying to spend money in this town, supporting all the local businesses. And is that not what we would want, is to support local? I'm a local.
You don't get that as much face to face as you do social media there, right?
Right.
Because social media makes brave, man. Like,
oh yeah, and I just ignore that stuff. But
but it's hard not to be defensive.
It is hard not to be defensive.
So my reaction to that would be, I only had like 2 New Year's resolutions in my life, and one of them was a few years ago. Don't try not to be defensive, and that's hard because you want to point out to the troll or whatever, the social media person that, but face to face is different. Like that person might have some concerns. You might agree, you might not agree. And they might be right about something. You might be wrong.
Right.
But more times than not, their point of view is not as educated on all things that you consider. They're looking at from a much more, narrow terms to all that. But I respect someone who would come up to you, not at a restaurant, but, have a sit down with you or talk to you or email you.
Yeah. I mean, I would much rather that.
Yeah.
It's like, talk to me. You see, I mean, let's have a beer together, and talk through this. You see my perspective. And then.
And you see theirs.
Yeah. I mean, it's real easy to criticize somebody over a keyboard.
But the other part is like, I mean, they're legitimate concerns too. You can understand. I mean, might not agree with them, but I can understand where some of that comes from, but not. Yeah. In the end, obviously, you're balancing. That's only, we only look at it just through our set of eyes. There's a lot more eyes to look through.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what they may not understand is I want a lot of the same things that they do. It's just going about it a different way.
Sure.
I mean, like we talked about earlier, I mean, the university's growing enrollment. They've been growing by 600 to 800 students from what the stats that I've been seeing every year. I mean, that's infusing
How does that compare to Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, or Florida State?
They're all very similar. Yeah.
Is education in the future though, like the smaller schools? I would be worried if I was at a really small school. Like to me, if I'm Clemson, I'm going to sell the experience. You're going to come to my campus. I'm going to grow your daughter up, your son up, and we're going to have this experience to where, you got online stuff now. I'm not sure if I can go to a small, tiny school and say I can sell an experience you can have at a major place.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point and thought is, a lot of these smaller schools, after COVID really suffered a lot.
Yeah.
And, if in some schools have shut down, some are just, they are really, really struggling to keep the doors open. And
the model is so tough, man. Like you're talking about taking out that much in student loans to go make that little money. I mean, trade school looks awfully good to me compared to that. So, I mean, that model, there's a bubble in there, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's really bright people who are trying to balance in that bubble and growth and not growth. And I mean, there's a lot in there.
Right. Well, and if you think about if a lot of those schools shut down, they're still going to want to go to the good tier 1 schools like Clemson. So what's that going to do? It's going to continue the growth.
Sure.
In spite of what you're hearing out there, that maybe getting a college education is not, the smartest path, with, student loans and everything, I still think it is. I think it's part of just growing up.
But a thing I notice in my industry, and things change. I'm changing yours, obviously. I mean, you talk about what we went through in 2008 compared to COVID, I mean, these major catastrophic type things in my industry. Okay. When I was a kid in 1974, 1 billion people watched Muhammad Ali and George Foreman in Rumble in the Jungle on television. 1 billion across the world. Nowadays, I mean, the Super Bowl draws like 120 million, the biggest sporting event in the world, like 8 times less, And so if you get a Clemson football game is going to draw 4 million people, think, man, that's a mega game. Clemson, Florida State this weekend, that's going to get like 4 or 5 million people. 1 billion watch boxing. And what happened? When's the last time you watched a boxing match?
I watch UFC. But,
All right. Bottom line is like boxing's dead.
Yeah.
So NASCAR, I had Marty McGee on my show the other day from ESPN. He's a big NASCAR guy. Now he's a college football guy. But he said, imagine telling Bristol Motor Speedway 20 years ago that those tickets that are willed to your family, like Augusta National, like imagine telling that you'd have to actually go out and market and have to sell and have thousands of empty seats at your NASCAR event. It'd be crazy to think that would ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball, you grew up, we watched the Braves growing up every single night. Imagine now, I don't even know what the Braves, if they're on, what channel they're on. Like things change.
Right.
And you better make it easy on your client, on your market, on your fan. You better make it convenient because somebody's out there making it easy.
Right.
And if you don't, man, you make bad decisions to make it harder, like what college football is trying to do. And those things can go away. And you don't think they can. Nobody in the right mind would have thought that Sears would have gone away or Best Buy or whatever, you know, like you couldn't screw up Budweiser.
Mm-hmm.
You screwed it up. You couldn't screw up Sears.
Yeah.
Screwed it up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you got to be careful in every.
Yeah. I mean, there's, and that's what I tell my team and my staff, at my company, it's like there's always somebody gunning for us. Somebody's always wanting to try to do things better. And so, as cliche as it is, we're always trying to do things better, try to learn and grow. And because if you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I really do believe that the growth that we're experiencing here is a generally positive thing. But I want to grow the right way.
Sure.
That there are a lot of things that there's a lot of political pressure to halt growth. This not just here, it's crossing, but I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around that concept. Like, how do you halt growth? Pickens County enacted a 6-month moratorium on multifamily, and so you can't do multifamily. We tried to pull permits on a little small duplex deal not too long ago, and we couldn't get them. We're having to wait. So
in that case, you could have a nicer home for somebody, and what the county says is no, we don't want a nicer home for somebody.
Yeah, or it's just it's like we're just it's a function of supply and demand, right? I mean,
but the moratorium was because of the growth issue.
They're trying to, I guess, they're trying to
stop
so
growth. In that case, I'm not to get too much. So in other words, the contractors you have, the people working the site, the tax base that would come out of that, somebody could have a better dwelling, somebody could have a healthier environment, your schools, your taxes you're paying. Like, we're just going to say, no, I won't do any of that.
Well, yeah. Well, in the meantime, people are moving here in droves from all over the country. I mean, Clemson,
sure.
It's the entire state of South Carolina is a very attractive place to be.
I was told the other day that, like, in your lifetime, like, there will be 20 million people that live in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, it's a great place.
Crazy though.
Yeah, and
like, we were 2 to 3 million just like a decade or two ago.
Yeah,
and now we're almost
like 4 or 5, some
5.5 or something, and then but we're going to 20 in the next 20 years or something like that.
Right. And I don't think that any of those kind of things are what's going to stop that from happening.
No.
So there's got to be a better way. And
we could stop it. we could elect bad people, make bad decisions, and then as pretty as those lakes are and as pretty as the mountains are, there is no more beautiful place in the country than California. And you see what it costs to get you see those stats, what it costs to get an RV. I mean, to get a U-Haul from California to Texas compared to Texas to California. Like if you take a U-Haul to Texas to California, it's outrageous. Like you can't get one because they don't want to, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway,
well,
we could screw it up. We could. Yeah. This place is awesome.
Well, a lot of those people are moving here.
Yeah, we could screw it up though.
I was out there skiing Tahoe in March with some buddies of ours,
which I used to go on.
Yeah. You have young kids now; you can't do it. That's right. Gas was pushing $7 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
Double what we're paying here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of good things, obviously awesome things about the state. I don't want it to get I don't want it to be overflowing with people, but how we can't stop it. How do we stop it? Like the way we are trying, and I say in general, what the political pressures have been. It's like we're trying to stop it the wrong ways. You don't. What you have to do is figure out the quickest way to absorb as much of the demand as quickly as possible. And that's an unpopular opinion. You got to identify those areas where it makes sense to have density and then put the people there. And you got like Clemson itself is looked at. I went to a conference back in April, the largest student housing conference in the country. It's the who's who of student housing. And everybody is looking at Clemson. I mean, there's other college towns too, but Clemson is one of the most attractive markets because of the barriers to entry, how hard it is to put deals together. People think that it's easy. It's not easy. It's very difficult. I live it every single day. But the more barriers to entry there are, the easier it is for the bigger groups, the ones that want to put together those big, massive projects that nobody likes, or a lot of people don't like. It's easier for them, so they love it. They love it. I mean, and so it's like you got to figure out there's got to be a different way. You can't stop market pressure.
What you're telling me is I need to listen to the mayor tomorrow. I need to go on your podcast with the mayor.
Well, I don't know what he's going to say. I'm not going to, we're just going to talk general, but but
there's, and this is something that you need to educate yourself about with, there's people to talk to and websites to go to and all.
He's in the council's in a really tough spot because no matter what they do, they're going to get, like they just passed they just approved that project, the hub, the big, that massive deal over there off Kiwi Trail. And that was extremely controversial. And
tell me anything about it.
Huh?
I'll have to look it up when we're done.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. That probably, if I'm being truthful, it hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be a little bit hypocritical to say that I didn't want that project. But I also think that it makes a lot of sense where it is. That where you want projects to be built and developed where they're walkable to campus, because that's what you don't want is the sprawl. That's
where we made a mistake. You remember all that? We were going through all that together with another friend of ours and seeing it all happen, and they made a mistake, man.
Yeah,
they made a huge mistake.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't want to get off on that, but it's
interesting.
It is interesting. It'll be real interesting to see how things play out over the next 5 to 10 years. This was funny. It's probably not true. I mean, it's probably not true, but when I was out at that conference, people, I've been going for so long.
People,
no, they didn't do that, but they knew that I'm, a lot of people knew I'll, operate here in Clemson. And I had so many people say, I hear Clemson's growing to 50,000 enrollment, over the next 10 years. And I was like, that's news to me. I hadn't heard that, but I mean, that was the rumor at the conference. So what do you think that does? I mean, it's like all the eyes are on Clemson. And, I don't think at the end of the day, I doubt that's true. I mean,
but this is where visionaries and leadership have to take the proper, like if there's a couple of forks in there, like we could go down some bad areas, make bad decisions, sprawl, and it could be bad.
But imagine if it is true. Like, what if it is true? What if in the next 10 years? I'm not saying I want that. I don't want that. I wouldn't want that either.
That could be great if it's handled correctly. If not, it's a disaster. So it's a fork, man. And it's about leadership and vision.
Right. And so halting, projects, enacting moratoriums. I mean, I understand if you've got, infrastructure issues, like you don't have sewer capacity in plants. I mean, you just but just trying to stop it when the pressure, all it's going to do is it's just going to force projects to be developed in areas that want them.
Yeah.
And which is the sprawl that that we're talking about. It's gonna, parents of kids are already buying houses in nice neighborhoods in Clemson, and they're putting their kid in them. I mean, they're paying, I heard the other day of a parent that bought a $1 million+ house for their kid to live in while they're at Clemson. So
that would have gone over well with my dad.
Yeah.
That would have really gone over well.
So is that what we want?
No.
Or would we rather have purpose-built student housing projects in the right places, in
the
town?
The right place is the key.
Yeah. And so that's the thing that people don't think of. And so if people are criticizing me, because of what I do, they're not understanding what's going through my head,
right.
but
that's why I got a good podcast and why you got a good websites, and you can,
but
accessible.
But anyway, but it is interesting. I know we said we were going to keep this pretty short because I know you're not feeling well, but we'll try to wrap it up.
Sure.
But I do want to hear your perspective on what conference you think we're going to go into.
I would say Today, 51-49. Tomorrow, 49-51. Graham Neff does not know what conference they're going in. And Jim Clements doesn't know what conference they're going in. And our board of trustees doesn't know. And so I don't know. I would say that if Clemson had their ways, it'd be SEC. It just makes it easier. We're more like them. You think about it, we're not like Boston College or Pittsburgh or Syracuse or Miami or Stanford and Cal. I need to add those in there. We're not like this, people.
SMU.
No, that's not who we are now. SMU is going to be like Texas, but we can swallow that because it's Texas. Sorry, and said SMU. With that said, socially or just DNA wise, that makes more sense. Baseball wise, it certainly makes more sense. And travel wise, but they're not making these decisions based upon fans traveling to away games. That's not, and we'd like to think that it is. It was nice to get in the car and go to Chapel Hill or go to Raleigh, go to Durham, go to Winston-Salem. Those are easy. Atlanta, those are easy. And that's fine. The SEC does present a little bit of that. Now, remember, we are still flying to Syracuse, Boston College, and Miami and Pittsburgh. So we're flying to some of those anyway. With that said, it's going to come down to, I think originally the Big Ten will be a little more aggressive. They're probably a little ready, farther along, ready to go. I think the SEC wants to wait a little bit and see how Texas, Oklahoma wants to work out. But in my mind, can't see where the SEC would let the Big Ten come down here and take major boardwalks and parks places like Clemson and Florida State. Florida State probably got the Big Ten maybe. I feel bad about them in the Big Ten, but so they were a key piece. And so is the SEC going to sit back and let the Big Ten come in here? I don't know. On the Big Ten side of things, you got to change the way you think about the Big Ten because it's not 3 yards in a cloud of dust in Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. It is now Oregon, Washington, Southern Cal, UCLA, Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State, with Nebraska, Wisconsin, all that. So you got to change. It's a national brand. The other thing that the Big Ten has done a great job of is on the national scene, they've got TV contracts with NBC, with CBS, and with Fox. ABC, ESPN has ABC, ESPN. SEC has ABC, ESPN. Well, the Big Ten has NBC and CBS and Fox. So now when you're watching The Masked Singer or The Voice or The View, whatever those things are, then you're watching it, and the promos are going to be about Clemson and Florida. Clemson and Miami. Michigan, or Clemson about or Oregon, or Clemson and Southern Cal. So it would be a national deal there. So you got to think about that. That it would be a little more money in the Big Ten. Either one, you're better off with. While the Big Ten might not be as desirable to some local folks, especially older folks there, it's still better than what we were going to be in the ACC, because in the end, it is about money, but it's also about perception. Because imagine this. Imagine that you're a great linebacker from Augusta, Georgia, and you're going to go on these unofficial visits on the weekends. Oh, which, by the way, we're paying players $5,000 a week just to visit your schools now. You know something? Like unofficial visits.
No way. Kids
going $5,000 every single week. Kid over a summertime can make a couple $100,000 by taking visits.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, but imagine
I didn't know that.
Imagine you're a linebacker, right? And you're being offered by Clemson, South Carolina, and Georgia. And at Clemson at noon, you're going to be playing Wake Forest. You can go to that game. At 3:30, South Carolina is going to be playing Texas. And at 8 o'clock, Georgia's going to be playing LSU. Now, which game are you going to?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perception. It's almost like the JV plays at 12, and then here comes the varsity after that. Now, you could answer with, all right, they're playing Texas and they're playing LSU. Well, we're playing Ohio State. We're playing Michigan. And there's some duds on both. You can Mississippi State or Arkansas, that's not going to be Vanderbilt. That's going to be a lot of fun. But neither's Rutgers or Maryland, some of that. It's not always every single week. But the big attractiveness that Clemson has, is that, like, they're not bringing in one great market, which Clemson is. They're bringing in inventory. So in the SEC, Clemson versus Texas or Oklahoma or Alabama or LSU or Texas A&M or Georgia or Florida or Tennessee. Or, I mean, that's 8 inventory. They're not going to play all those every year, but that's potentially 8 inventory, mega huge, 7-8 million fan games, and that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for the $1 million game, million viewer games. And so, in the Big Ten, Clemson versus Oregon, Washington, Southern Cal, UCLA, Penn State, Michigan. I mean, that's inventory games that they're paying for. Because in the end, like, you're not going to watch NC State, Wake Forest. Also, you're not going to watch Vanderbilt and Kentucky. You were going to watch Florida State, Clemson if they're in the ACC. But the inventory looks like, man, Michigan plays Southern Cal this weekend. Ohio State plays Oregon this weekend. Penn State's playing Florida. I mean, whatever. So it's about the inventory through all that. I think 51-49. I'd say in the end, my guess would be SEC, but I wouldn't be shocked if we're in the Big Ten.
So you don't think there's any scenario where we don't leave the ACC?
No, it's done. The divorce is in the process of happening now. And here's the thing. Right now, Clemson's about a $20 million deficit. The SEC compared to the Big Ten and the ACC. $20 million they've been able to make up through IPTAY and through people like you, very kind contributions over there and all that. And they've that margin's one thing. Well, that margin's going to grow to about $50 to $60 million in the next 4 or 5 years. So, 10 years of that is $500 million. You're not going to sit around and you're going to ask Clemson to compete against South Carolina 10 years later, $500 million down. This is not going to happen. So the haggling and the arguments in courts, how that all works out is what we're going to go through, and where right now I'm just trying to find out what stadium they're going to play in, like we're going to do it in South Carolina or North Carolina. So once they go through all that, they'll go, one side will start winning the case and one side will be motivated to settle. There'll be a settlement. But the idea, no, this is irreconcilable differences. And the major thing is because of just the DNA. Clemson is a bigger school now that is a football school in a conference of a bunch of small private basketballs. Clemson, Wake Forest, and Syracuse, and Boston College, and Pittsburgh, and Virginia. I mean, they don't have anything in common. The who Clemson's DNA is Tennessee,
right,
and Georgia, and Ohio State, and Michigan. Like that's your DNA. That's who you want to be involved with. That's who you want to, that's who you want to be married to.
Yeah, exactly.
The divorce is in the process of. They're going to file for divorce, basically.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Got to get rid of pneumonia and cholesterol and high blood pressure so we can live long enough to see these epic battles. And you imagine that, man? Like Ohio State fans leaving Myrtle Beach and Charleston to come up here.
Only 5 hours versus 12.
Yeah. No, you imagine, like, you travel with your family, right? You going to Big House? You going to Michigan? You going to Happy Valley?
That'd be fun,
right? You going to the Coliseum or the Rose Bowl? It'd be fun. Now you might not do it every year, but the idea of that, I mean, that ain't no joke.
No, you're exactly right.
When we were at the college football playoffs a few years ago, my wife and I were in, we leave Miami and we go to Arizona for the first one. I remember pulling up that stadium. I remember telling her, "Man, this ain't Wake Forest. Like, this ain't no joke." And so, it's Texas or it's Michigan. Like, man, this ain't no joke now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Ella and we went to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
The year Trevor Lawrence threw his first TD pass to, I think it was a T.
Yeah.
Yeah. That game was insane. I mean, that place is insane.
It's the best college stadium in the country, but that place is that's Neyland, and that's the Swamp,
right?
It's Athens, and that's the Big House.
Imagine that week after
Horseshoe.
Week.
You have to change your thought process about wins and losses too. Like 9-3 gets in the playoffs, and 9-3 is like the NFL. 9-3 is a really good year.
Right.
It's like there won't be any of that 11-0, 12-0. That ain't
right. Yeah, that would not likely ever happen.
No, anybody. Not to Alabama.
Right.
Not to Georgia.
Right.
Georgia this year goes to Texas and to Alabama. Georgia the last couple of years have played nobody in the regular season. Even in the SEC, because Kentucky and Florida and Tennessee, I mean, South Carolina hadn't been very good. But now, man, they go to Texas and to Alabama.
Wow. That's crazy. So quick prediction. Georgia, Clemson. Who's going to win that game?
Oh, man. I mean, Georgia's better than Clemson right now, but it's an opening game. Who knows? Turn it over a couple times, and Clemson can play with Georgia. And who knows, like, because of transfer portal and all, is like, who knows what the teams have right now. Georgia's better than Clemson. Georgia should be favoring Clemson. It should be maybe a 10-point favorite. But, you get in the game, and people forget on Georgia's, when they beat us in Charlotte a couple years ago, Clemson was favored in the game.
Yeah.
10-3, and then Georgia won the national championship. Clemson didn't play very well that year. They weren't very good. So you don't know. Burton Burns told me that every team is different every year, and so you don't know. But Georgia should be favored over Clemson. I think Clemson can beat Georgia. You?
Yeah, I think they can. Yeah. Who do you like, to your point, like every year is a different set of leaders. You just never know.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can predict who those are going to be. I mean, you knew when Deshaun was coming back or Trevor's come back, you knew they were going to be kind of the natural leaders. But like, who are the leaders on this team?
This is a team that I think has got good base because of the culture. And these kids have stuck around. They're not transfer portal kids and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, you see it in those. And a lot of times it is seniors, but there's a bunch of good. You hope that Cade's that guy. I think Cade sometimes feels pressure to be that guy, though, so it's not really as authentic as it could be. The quarterback's always that natural position kind of a thing there. But I think they've got a bunch. No more Tyler Davises. Your guy. Mm-hmm. What a good kid, huh?
Yeah, great kid.
Yeah, but they've got football players now. I mean, they're going to be.
I think our defense is going to be really good.
Yeah, really good. And Wes has a lot of good pieces of clay to work with over there. But leadership is nowadays probably as more important as ever. Because, that locker room can fall apart pretty quick in a me, NIL world, right?
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Yeah.
Well,
I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, we got to do it again.
Let's do it.
I mean, I felt like I could have sat here and talked to you for another hour and a half, 2 hours. We just need to plan it.
Let's do it.
So,
let me know.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for all your support for all these years.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's
been a good partnership, right?
It's been a great partnership.
How long are you going to do it?
How long I'm going to work?
Mm-hmm.
I want to work the rest of my life.
You too.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. Leave you this. So Dan Patrick, when Bob Stoops retired from Oklahoma, Dan Patrick, he walked away like he didn't have a year-long thing. Certain people have a year-long thing or whatever, goodbye tour or whatever. Dan Patrick's hosted radio show, ESPN guy that now hosts the Dan Patrick show. And his Danettes, or the guys that work with him, said, "Are you going to give us a year or are you going to walk away?" And he said, "Walk away from what? Like, when you retire, the thought is you retire to something better." And he goes, "What's better than this?"
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you retire to?
Exactly. I mean, I want to be in a position to, to travel and play golf and do fun things, but I'm not going to retire.
Good.
So
I want either. Let's keep supporting each other, I hope.
Yep. Would love to. All right. It's been another Experience Matters podcast with Eric Newton and our guest, Mickey Plyler. We really appreciate you coming on.
I enjoyed it.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you, buddy.